The following is a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio. From hot dogs to cool kitties, this is Darkside of the Pooch.
Our first show of 2023. It's time to head to the dark side with Dr. Rab Stewart from the Rossbridge Animal Hospital. 205-209-0301. You can always call them, and of course at Rossbridge Vet on Twitter and Rossbridge Animal Hospital on Facebook. And he's Dr. Rab Stewart as we head to the dark side for the first time in 2023. Dr. Rab, what's going on, brother? How are you?
I'm great. Happy New Year, man.
Happy New Year to you as well. We got some great emails, info@tonykurreradio.net. We're going to get into the 2022 most common Googled dog questions. I'm going to let you take a stab at some of those. Some of those you'll certainly say absolutely. Some of them are kind of weird. We have a story about a cat who ate 38 of these, and unfortunately this cat spent all 9 lives getting through it, didn't make it. We'll talk about that and why dogs hate the new year. What's going on at Rossbridge Animal Hospital for 2023? Any big changes, anything big going on, or just same old business as usual?
I don't know, man. I got some things that we might do, just depending on how things shake out. You always want to get new things and do new things. So we'll update as we hopefully make those things happen.
All right, let me know. All right, again, info@tonykurreradio.net. We always get some great email questions. We'll get into that coming up in just a few minutes. We call it Mutt Mail. We got one from Tabitha, Tim, Mary, and Tom have written in today, so we'll get to these questions coming up here in just a few minutes. And we got the 2022 most common Google dog questions. But first, I want to get into this story. And we talk about this all the time. Heartbreaking story out of an animal shelter in South Carolina where a cat had come in. They did a scan on it and realized that its stomach was full of something. They weren't sure what it was. They went in to extract what was in there, and do you know what it was? It was 38 of these.
Pennies.
Let's go hair ties.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and the veterinarian, and you'd mentioned this before. I remember you saying something about hair ties, and it's a crazy question. They took the hair ties out, but it already had liver damage, and so the cat passed away, unfortunately. But what is it about hair ties, those sorts of things? Obviously, they don't taste good. We've talked about dogs and why they poop and eat boxes and stuff like that, but dogs are kind of dumb. Cats are kind of smart. What would preoccupy a cat enough to eat 30? And obviously, there's not a bind of 38 of these things. You would think that she ate it one at a time. Why would a cat do that?
I have no idea. If it's a smell or if it's just a texture thing, I mean, I wish I could tell you. But they get kind of tied up around themselves, and the danger is that they obviously don't pass because they kind of tie themselves up.
Yeah.
And then if you get a portion of the train of bands that stays in the stomach, well, then the intestines kind of grab hold of the other side of the train, and they start, pushing those things through the intestines. But the head of the train stays in the stomach. And so then instead of the intestines moving the train of hair ties through, and I wish you could see me right now, because I'm using all these hand motions and like I'm talking with my hands and no one can see me and I look insane. But instead of the GI tract moving the intestines out, you can think of it as the train of intestines is stationary, and the intestines just kind of bunch up on top of the hair bands. Yeah. And that cuts off the blood supply to the bowel, and the bowel dies. And then that leaks, toxins and, infection throughout the abdomen.
That's not a good thing, and it's unfortunate for sure. Another story.
Go ahead. Before we move on, that we had since the last time we talked, we had a similar case like that of a dog, where the dog, had GI symptoms, not eating, vomiting, and stuff, and we had to take it to surgery. And it wasn't hair bands, but it was the elastic to clothing. The dog swallowed something that was clothing, had elastic in it, and a portion of that stayed in the stomach. But part of the band worked its way into the intestine. And so the exact thing we just described happened in the dog. So, fortunately, we were able to get that foreign body out, and there were only two really small focal areas where the intestine had become necrotic or basically bruised so bad that it had died. And we just trimmed out that dead tissue and closed everything back together. And last I heard, the dog's doing fine.
What is the craziest thing Dr. Rebs ever extracted from a dog or a cat's belly?
Well, it's a lot of clothing. I mean, I've removed women's underwear that is, I mean, it would make the woman blush knowing what we took out.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess eventually they figured out what's no longer in the drawer.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've seen some interesting pairs of those, and one time I removed a little rubber hedgehog. A kid's toy. So, it's just stuff like that.
I gotcha. Again,
corn cobs, lots of corn cobs.
Yeah. Dogs love corn cobs, don't they? They eat the whole thing, don't they?
Yeah.
When someone says you walk like you have a corn cob up your ass, they actually do.
Yeah, they do. Really, really far up there. Really far.
By the way, inadvertently, the number is 208-0301. I don't know why I gave that out wrong. 208-0301, Rossbridge Animal Hospital at Rossbridge Vet. On Twitter, the Rossbridge Animal Hospital on Facebook. And, of course, info@TonyCurryRadio.net. We got the 2022 most commonly Googled dog questions coming up here in just a few seconds. One other story that I thought was interesting, and by the way, this show is brought to you by Ed's Pet World. I always mention them. Sometimes I do it in the middle of the show. They have a couple of cockatoos down there. It is worth the visit to go to Ed's Pet World and check out the two cockatoos because they don't like each other. They're on either side of the store and they talk to each other. It's hilarious. Great fish. I went down there and got some sucker fish last week. All kinds of great exotic pets at Ed's Pet World down there in Homewood. In business for 50 years. Seth, Angie, the entire crew, they're the best of the best. It's just a fun place to go. And of course, Seth also collects toys from his toy closet, in the box, watches, Star Wars stuff, Battlestar Galactica, you name it, they'll find it. If you find some stuff in your attic, they buy, sell, and trade at Ed's Pet World. It's fantastic. A dog owner was absolutely heartbroken when her dog apparently died because it was scared to death by fireworks. Now, I've got this Havanese that will shake like a leaf, and I'm to the point where it's happened so many times, and he's got anxiety medicine. I try not to give it to him because it kind of lays him out. But I'll hold him. I'll say it's okay. He gets through it. And obviously the next time it happens, nothing changes. And I've been told that if you hold an animal and tell them it's going to be okay, it's going to be okay, and you hold them kind of tight like a thunder jacket, maybe they can get through it. In this particular case, she was told by her veterinarian that the dog was truly scared to death by fireworks. It finally had enough. Its nervous system shut down. Is that possible?
I mean, I guess it could have like a heart attack, like a car, but I've never experienced that personally. I don't think.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's possible. People do it. So I guess a dog could have I would think it was more of a cardiovascular problem potentially.
There's always something a little extra that's probably going along with that. And I've heard of people, actually dying of broken hearts, and I believe that to be real. But I also think some depression is probably into play there as well. All right, 2022 most common Googled questions about their dogs. This, according to Google, just came out earlier this morning. Can you name any of the top 10 questions off the top of your head you think people Google about their dogs? There's some questions in here that I cannot believe were actually Googled. We can read all of them, by the way. But are there any questions off the top of your head that you're obviously a veterinarian, you do very, very good work, so people probably ask you a lot of questions.
Why is there anything like, why does my dog scoot its butt? We get that all the time.
There is not, but explain that, because I'm going to have you answer each and every one of these. My dog's still doing that. He's already had his glands cleaned out, but he's still doing it.
Sometimes they'll do it, like you mentioned, if they have these glands right inside their bottom and they get impacted and full, and they have to have the contents emptied out of them. They'll also, just do it if they're just itchy. They just have like kind of maybe an itchy bottom, or maybe the hair is, cause them to be itchy. Or if they have parasites. We know that yours doesn't because we checked it. So those are probably the most common things. That make them scoot their bottom. I don't know. I would think people would ask about a lot of like urine stuff, like why is my dog peeing or why is my dog throwing up? we get those questions a lot too.
All right, you want them?
Yeah, let's hear 'em.
Number 10, and give me an answer if you got one. Number 10, why does my dog smell like fish?
Why does my dog smell like fish?
Yes, these are the top 10 Google questions.
Hey,
I had to read some of these because I've never heard that question before.
That's the glands.
That's the glands?
The glands smell like fish. They're expressing their glands.
Okay.
So
Number 9, why does my dog eat poop?
I don't know the answer to that, but yeah, it's a pretty common question.
But it's just dogs just eat anything, right? I mean, you're talking about cats and dogs eating panties. I mean, if it's what is that?
I don't know. They just, I think things that are really smelly, they're just drawn to, and I mean, let's,
could it be texture too?
Yeah. I mean, it's texture and smell.
Like my dog will eat cheese puffs, but not cheese balls.
Oh, I like the cheese balls.
I do too.
I like the cheese puffs too.
But when I get the puffs, it's like he'll eat the cheese puffs, but he won't eat the chease balls. He won't have anything to do with it. I'll even break him up, and he won't eat the cheese balls. He'll eat the cheese puffs. It's the same damn thing. I'm like, dude, what? I mean, what? And again, maybe I shouldn't be feeding my dog cheese puffs. Number 8. Why do dogs chase their tails?
Oh, I think that just enjoyment, I mean, I just think they're just curious, and they're same reason they chase a ball, I mean, if a dog is a ball chaser, he's gonna be a tail chaser.
Does the dog know that it's his tail that he's chasing, do you think?
I don't think so. I think if they knew if it was their tail, then they wouldn't be chasing it. I think they just see something moving and they can't get it, so they keep trying.
All right, 2022 most common Googled questions about their dogs. Number 7, can dogs see ghosts?
Oh, if I only knew the answer to that question.
Now
ask Peter Venkman.
Now listen, dogs can feel and sense things that we cannot. We know that when there's bad storms, horses seem to get out of whack. We know that elephants go for higher ground when there's tsunamis. They do have this sixth sense. We know dogs can smell bombs. They can smell cancer. So maybe this is a situation. I used to have a wire fox terrier. Now I came to find out that it was actually having seizures, but it would stare into corners and would make these growling noises. And I'm like, what's it actually see? I thought maybe it was seeing something I could not.
Maybe all the people that say they are seeing ghosts, they're actually having seizures too.
Or maybe, you know what? You may have something there, that, or maybe they were a dog in a former life. Number 6, I've never heard this question. Can my dog drink tea?
Yeah, they can drink tea. Sure.
Can they? A lot of it?
I mean, it's not toxic to them. I mean, it might upset their stomach,
It is kind of strange. It is kind of strange that dogs will beg for food that we eat, but they don't beg for the drink we drink. Why is that?
Probably because it doesn't have the smell.
Yeah. All right.
Probably because a lot of drinks don't smell.
Number 5, do dogs have belly buttons?
Yeah. They all have, most of them will have very, very nondescript and somewhat hard to see outies. They don't have innies. They're very flat outies normally. If they have an umbilical hernia, they can have a big outie.
Yeah, I've got that actually, an umbilical hernia.
Yeah,
and it's from pushing too much. But and where exactly would you find this? I know where to find it, but you tell people.
It's on their belly, where you would expect that to be in a person, and it's about like from their pelvis, from the top of their pelvis. I'm not going to give you a length because it depends on the size of the dog, but it's probably about 2/3 the way to the chest.
Okay. Number 4, these are the top 2022 most common Googled questions about their dogs. Number 4, can dogs eat baked beans?
Yeah, that Bush's baked bean dog. He's the one that cooks them. So yeah, if a dog can cook baked beans, then they can eat baked beans.
For the most part, if we get gas from eating a particular food, will dogs get gas eating the same food? I
think they could, but their GI tract is made of different bacteria than ours is.
Yeah.
So I've never fed my dog beans. I'm not sure. Maybe someone out there wants to do a science project for us. And feed their dog a can full of beans and let us know what happens. But that's going to entail hanging around the back end of your dog for about 24 hours.
Yeah,
So I'm not sure if anyone wants to do that, but go ahead. Let us know. Email us.
This was Googled, and please do info at TonyCurryRadio.net. Darkside the Pooch, Dr. Rab Stewart, Rossbridge Animal Hospital at Rossbridge Vet on Twitter, 2080301, brought to you by Ed's Pet World. This was Googled 60,183 times. I can't believe it. Can dogs eat olives?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they can eat olives. Just watch out for the pits,
Yeah. Okay. Number 2, why does my dog stare at me? That's a question that, and I know you probably don't have an answer for this, but it is amazing. My Havanese will come up on my chest, and even when I'm petting it, usually a dog will look at you because it wants your attention and it wants something from you. That's why they say, why does it stare at you when you're naked? Why does it stare at you when you're shower? Why does it stare at you when you're with your wife? Why does it stare at you when you're eating dinner? Normally it wants your attention, but even when you're giving it what it wants, it stares at you. Why is that?
I just think they're curious,
Yeah.
I just think they're just kind of studying you.
Okay.
Like I used to, man, this is, I could get way off in the weeds with this.
Do it.
But, I used to never understand. I'm an only child. I don't have any siblings. And, I'd be laying on the couch, and this is going to sound creepy to some people, but now I understand it. And I would look over at my dad, who's just looking at me. He was just looking at me, and I would say, "What are you staring at?" He'd just say, "You." I'm just looking at you, and I was like, "You're creepy. Stop." And now that I have my own kids, I find myself doing it.
Yeah, I know.
I'm just looking at him, and I'm just thinking, like, 9 years ago, you couldn't even crawl, and look at you now, and you just look at them and you just think, and you wonder where they're going to be and what they're going to do and what they're thinking, and you just kind of, I don't know, you're almost daydreaming about them. And I think dogs are probably doing that with us too.
What you need to worry about is when they start staring back at you.
Yeah.
Because I was sitting in my chair last night watching some college football, and my son, I could just feel his eyes, and I wasn't doing it. I was just watching the TV, and I looked over at him, and he just looked at me, and I was like, "Hey, what are you doing?" He's like, "Nothing, just looking at you." And I was like, "Oh, making sure you're okay." I'm like, "I'm still alive. I'm still here, bro." All right, the number one Google question. It was Googled over 113,000 times. Can dogs see in the dark?
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
I thought maybe, I wonder why. I figured one would be, can dogs see color? Are dogs colorblind?
Well, and we can get into that, but can dogs see in the dark?
Well, they can see better than we can in the dark, but It's not like they have, that night vision stuff where everything's green and, like Modern Warfare or whatever, but they can see better than we can in the dark. And it probably has something to do with their rods and their cones, the same reason that they don't see the same myriad of color that we see. So, they're the makeup of the rods and the cones and their retina is what probably affects both of those things.
So they're not colorblind, correct? But they can only see certain colors, correct?
Yeah, they're not totally colorblind. And there's a paper out there that talks about the differences of the rods and the cones that we have versus what they have. And to be honest with you, I can't remember exactly what it says, but it goes into detail on that.
All right. Info at TonyCurryRadio.net. Info at TonyCurryRadio.net. We got some mutt mail we'll get into. You're brought to you by Ed's Pet World, a fantastic place open for 50 years. If you bought an exotic pet from Ed's Pet World over the holidays, they got bearded dragons, they got tarantulas, they got chinchillas, ferrets, all kinds of great stuff. Rabbits, getting ready for Halloween coming up. They got they got everything down there, man. It's super cool. Check out Ed's Pet World. We greatly appreciate them being part of this. Tabitha in Holly Pond wants to know about interspecies relationships. She said she's got, and I'm going to paraphrase this because it's a really long email. She's got a Rottweiler that always chases cats. It doesn't matter where the cat is or whose cat it is. The dog will chase the cats, probably because the cat is running. Normally, if a cat would just sit still, the dog would get spooked and probably freak out. But then she had a cat with kittens in the house, and the Rottweiler protects those kittens. And now that the cats are a little older, the kittens are a little older, he does not chase those cats around the house. Why is that? And why do we have dogs that protect kittens? Why do we have goats that protect cows? What's up with interspecies relationships, or do you know?
I think it's because that dog probably saw those kittens and realized they were really vulnerable, and they couldn't be chased because, and not for, just for fun, really, not to be malicious, like her Rottweiler might not be chasing cats out of, trying to hurt them. But I think the dog probably saw that those cats are, really susceptible to tons of different things. And it didn't chase them when they were little, and it's not going to chase them now, because it saw how vulnerable they were when they were first born.
So would it make the connection that, okay, this is a cat, and if there's a cat outside, I won't chase it anymore? Or will it chase that cat, not the one sitting in the house or if it runs outside?
I mean, I don't think that it would not chase an outdoor cat that it had no relationship with. I think it still may chase those cats, and maybe even for a totally different reason. If it doesn't know the cat, maybe it is trying to be malicious.
Okay.
So I don't necessarily think that just because it stopped chasing the cats that had kittens, that it's not going to chase any cats at all.
All right. I have a question from Tony in Birmingham. I moved to my house a month ago. I've seen my cat one time. I moved it in its kennel, so it didn't know where we were moving. And in the minute I let it out of the kennel, it shot across the street. I brought this up the last couple of weeks. I haven't seen it since. Is it still alive, do you believe?
How many weeks has it been? 4 weeks?
Yeah, December 1st is when I moved, so it's been a little over a month. You said after 2 weeks, start freaking out a little bit, but I have not. Yeah. Now, my neighbor's got 6 cats. There's dogs and cats all over this neighborhood, but everyone's chained up. There's not dogs and cats running all over the neighborhood. But do you think it's still alive? And if it is, why hasn't it come back yet?
I don't necessarily think that it's dead, but I don't think it's coming back. I think the odds of it coming back are slim at this point. I don't think that it's zero. Because I know cats that have been gone for up to 6 months and they show back up. So, but I think the odds of it coming back obviously decrease over time. But I don't think you have to make the assumption that it's no longer alive.
Yeah. If you left a cat out in the woods in the middle of nowhere, how long would it live? Would it figure out a way to live as long as the weather's not too nasty? I mean, cats are really, really, they're active and they're very adaptable. They figure out ways to make it through.
I don't think it would live as long as it would if it were in someone's home. But I think it could live for years.
Yeah.
They're resourceful. They can find food and water, and they can find some kind of shelter. But I do think over time, it's not going to have the care that it would have in someone's home. And it's just going to get in a situation that it can't get itself out of, or it's going to just get, malnourished or succumb to an injury or parasitism, or, it's the same as if you kicked me out of my house. I would find a way to live, I would find a way to live probably for a long time.
Yeah.
But, after living outside for, 5 winters or whatever, it probably ages you 30 years or whatever.
You would look good with a beard though, by the way.
Oh yeah. Thank you. Appreciate that. All the hair's falling off the top of my head. So maybe if it can migrate down my face and look okay.
There you go. Info at TonyCurryRadio.net. He's Dr. Rab Stewart of the Rossbridge Animal Hospital, at Rossbridge Vet on Twitter, the Rossbridge Animal Hospital on Facebook, 208-0301. Mutt Mail. Send it to us every single week. We read your questions. Tim in Enterprise wants to know, Dr. Rab, why do dogs take food out of their bowl to eat it? Why don't they eat it in the bowl?
My dog does that too.
It drives me crazy.
I don't really have an answer. I have no idea why. I don't think that there's any reason for it that would be worrisome, because like I said, my dog does it and he's got really clean teeth. He's got a healthy mouth. So as long as they drop it and then they eat it again, then I wouldn't think anything about it. But there are some causes for concern if they do have oral pathology, like if their teeth are really bad, or if they have a mass in their mouth. So I would recommend that if it does, the first time it happens, you probably want to have that pet checked just to be sure. And then if a good oral exam is completed and they don't find anything that looks like trouble, and otherwise the pet is fine. Now, for example, we had a cat that was doing some strange things where it would bite the food in half and then spit it out. And then looking at that cat, we found out that it had a mass on its tongue, and we biopsied it and it was benign. Wow. And it just needed some anti-inflammatories to help the mass go away. It's pretty common in cats that they get it's just an inflammatory lesion caused by a bunch of a certain type of white cell that kind of invades the tongue. So in that case, the cat was doing some strange kind of biting the food and leaving some of it on the ground. And it did have some pathology that needed to be worked out.
That's kind of strange. He's Dr. Rab Stewart. That's why he's here. He answers these questions. Mary and Hoover, there's a lot of cat questions. This is a great question because I'm going through this right now. Do cats really know what they're doing when they're sitting outside in front of a window and driving the dog inside crazy?
I mean, I don't. When we ask, do they know what they're doing? I don't know that the cat sits there and thinks, I'm going to really freak this dog out.
Are you sure?
I'm going to tie this dog in knots. But I do think, I mean, obviously they know that dog cannot get them.
Yeah.
And so, I don't think they sit in the window to mess with the dog, but when they find that they are messing with the dog, they know that the dog can't get them. So they're like, oh, what the heck? Let's just sit here and ride this thing out.
All right. And also, Tom in Birmingham wants to know, he knows that Dr. Rab does wonderful work with cats and dogs. Do you serve any other type of species? And if there is another type of species, and he put in parentheses, legal, where should they take it to be cared for? Rabbits, birds, anything like that. Do you have anyone that you refer to?
We have, so we'll do the occasional, exotic, depending on what's wrong with it. So, if it's an actual exotic pet or a small pet, like a rabbit or a guinea pig or a hamster, there are certain things that we can do and certain things that are out of, our specialty. So, if you have questions about a domesticated exotic animal, then you can call our office. If it's out of, the range of those, if it's a wild animal, we won't treat it. But I would say the best answer to that is call our office and we'll let you know if it's something we feel like we can take care of or if we need to refer you somewhere else.
If my sugar glider's pregnant, can I bring it in?
Oh yeah, of course. We'll take care of it.
My daughter wants a sugar glider. I'm like, that ain't happening. We don't need any weird animals. Although if I was going to get another exotic pet, and I will someday, I would go to Ed's Pet World because they're one of our great sponsors today. All right. Anything else new going on in the wonderful world of the Rossbridge Animal Hospital here in 2023?
No, we're just happy to be here, man.
All right.
Thank you for letting us come on, and I appreciate everybody listening and appreciate everybody that comes into our office and lets us help them because, that's why we're here. We do it, because we love them and we love people. And so thank you to everybody out there that lets us do our job.
And you do it with great compassion and great love, and we appreciate you. Rossbridge Animal Hospital, 208-0301, 208-0301, area code 205, and Rossbridge Animal Hospital on Facebook and at Rossbridge Vet on Twitter. Dr. Rab, thank you so much for the great show, and we'll catch up next week, my man.
Can't wait.
This has been a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio.